is a massive thought experiment about to take place in real life, forcing all of us to ask ourselves, when it comes to the topic of aliens, who do we believe? And then, speaking of experiments, we're going to take a look at the story of a man with a normal job. And in the course of this job, he was tasked to do job interviews. But what happens when this seemingly ordinary man uses these job interviews to conduct experiments? Experiments that will drive you mad. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. Hope you guys had tons of fun over the weekend, the Thanksgiving weekend. Gobble gobble. It's all over with. Now it's on a fast sprint to Christmas time. We had a really good Thanksgiving live stream special. If you guys weren't able to make it, it is now available on the podcast app. You can listen to the episode. Yeah, it's just chill. We just talked about a bunch of stuff, a ton of stuff, and we'll address some of it. Like some of the stuff I brought up, I found stories about, so in the coming days and weeks, we'll have some content, and I'll go, hey, yeah, this idea kind of comes from that Thanksgiving live stream. If you guys can't make it, I totally understand, but I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving nonetheless. We got a lot of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command, everyone get on your feet and give it up for Brian Blackwood. Woohoo, yeah, he's running on in. He's running on and stabbing everybody. Run! Run! He's really a serial killer. You're like, what? Are you friends with serial killers? Well, no, not technically. Brian Blackwood is a friend of mine, though, and he is the author of a book called Fractured. And we've met at ghost conferences back and forth over the years, and I totally consider him a friend at this point. Why is he stabbing people, Jason? I'd hate to be your enemy if you accuse your friends of serial murder. No, the reason why I brought that up, as he's finishing off your corpse, is his book Fractured is about, I haven't finished it, but, and I was looking up the description online. It's a serial killer who can hop through people's bodies. He can that's kind of how he does it. He'll go into a body and then he'll kill somebody, or just make you kill yourself. I'm not a big reader, but I did start his book. It was pretty cool. This guy does that. He hops bodies, but he likes to have the same clothes he always has. So if I remember correctly in the beginning, he hopped into a cop's body and caused some chaos at a station and was like, oh, this cop body's right, governor. I really like it. The dude's British, I think. It's like, nope, don't know where you got that from. Governor, I just killed the cop. But he's still in the cop's body, if I remember this correctly. But he wants his jacket. He's really emotionally attached to his jacket, so he goes and he puts the jacket on. But the jacket's for 8 victims past. The jacket's really old, so it won't fit on the body he's currently in. So he's kind of walking around and the jacket's tight on him. And he's like, I guess I better find a more slender man to possess. No, it's pretty cool. I really liked it. Probably not the best sell of the book, but I will put the links in the show notes so you can check it out if you're a fan of urban fantasy, if you're a fan of serial killers, if you're a fan of angels and demons at war. Fractured will be the book for you. I'll put the link in the show notes so you guys can check it out. So, Brian, friend of the show, supports the show, gives me really good advice. That is why he is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially, it's totally fine. Just do what Brian does. He helps spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Okay, Brian, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to toss you we haven't used this in a while. I'm going to toss you the keys to the Dead Rabbit Dirigible. Everyone climb aboard this big, beautiful blimp as Brian flies us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to an ordinary living room on an otherwise ordinary day. Sorry, guys, too, as we're flying, you might have noticed the audio quality changed a bit. I had to turn on a heater. So, listen, man, it's either too hot in here or too cold. I love my place. It's always one or the other. Hopefully, I can negate the sound of the heater. This is a super interesting story, I feel. No one's saying what I'm about to say, But once I say it, you'll go, that does kind of make sense. Hopefully, right? I don't get a bunch of email going, you're crazy. Recently, a documentary came out. I have not watched it yet. To be honest, I'm kind of burned out on UFO documentaries and even like Bigfoot documentaries. I've watched a lot of those over the years. I'm not saying that they're not quality. I've just seen so many. But a new documentary came out called The Age of Disclosure. And a lot of people really like it. It's interesting. There are movie reviews that say it's a well-made documentary. I just don't believe in aliens, even after watching it. Then there's other movie reviews saying it's a well-made documentary, and it's actually kind of changed my mind on the subject. At the very least, the government's hiding something, whether it's aliens or some advanced adversary here on Earth. The information in the documentary is very compelling. So I might check it out at some point. It was directed by Dan Farber. Dan Farah. So I'll put links to that in the show notes. It's super popular. I spend a lot of time on Amazon Prime looking for stuff to watch. And the other day it was the #1 most streamed movie or streamed program in the US. So a lot of people are watching The Age of Disclosure. The idea that the government is going to finally admit that alien life is real. That's step one, right? There's multiple parts of this question. One, is alien life real? Which most people say, yeah, somewhere out in the universe, there's most likely alien life. But the more important question, because I think most people consider that one a given, is alien life real, and are they visiting Earth? And that's the idea. Like that's the big one. That's the one that people go, but I don't think they're visiting Earth. Or they think that they do. To me, there's a third question there. How much have they been involved in our history? If aliens have been coming to Earth here and there, but they've really ramped up their activity in the past 80 years since we began detonating nuclear bombs. Very interesting question. It's a little unsettling to think that and I do believe in the existence of aliens, but it's unsettling to think that they're flying around and they can shut off all of our weapons, and that the government's been not only covering it up, but actually attacking people who have tried to reveal the truth. They've been doing this for 80 years. That's one question. The other thing is, all human advancements have been guided by aliens. They really did help build the pyramids. They really did guide human civilization, taught humans farming techniques and irrigation and how to look up into the sky and read the stars and all that stuff. That's even more unsettling to me, because then humans lose all agency. If you're able to say, well, all the old religions, not even religions predating that, the idea of gods and angels and demons are actually visitations by an advanced alien race. And that is what guided prehistory and even modern religions. Turns out that they also have an alien-influenced history. That's far more disturbing to me. But The Age of Disclosure is a documentary, and they're talking to a lot of people who believe in aliens, believe the government's hiding stuff up, and it also has a lot of sitting senators and politicians, congresspeople, talking about how they believe the government is hiding the existence of either alien technology or human technology, but it is far more advanced than anyone's letting on. It's an unknown adversary here on Earth of a terrestrial origin. Interesting documentary. I'm not saying it sucks. I just am kind of burned out on those guys. Not just UFO documentaries in general. But out of this documentary, an interesting question has popped up, or an interesting theory has popped up. And there right now is actually a perfect time to disclose the existence of aliens and that they've been visiting Earth for the past 80 years. Let's put it, because that's kind of the theory that's being put out by the Age of Disclosure type documentary. It's not an ancient aliens thing. Right now is actually a perfect time where the government can disclose the existence of alien life, and they've been visiting Earth for 80 years, and at the exact same time, not disclose it. And that is because this message in this moment in human history would be coming from none other than President Donald Trump. And I'm not getting political on this show, it's just kind of stating it as it is. Dan Farah, the maker of the documentary, director of the documentary, says that he has heard, because he's pretty tied up in, he knows these political guys, right? He kind of has an inside track. He goes, there are members of the Trump team that are ready to present a statement to Donald Trump saying you should disclose the existence of alien life. Now, Trump has gone on record many times saying he personally doesn't believe in the existence of aliens. It's covered it a couple times on the show. It's very interesting because sometimes past presidents have been kind of coy about the question. Trump's like, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. A lot of people do. He goes, I know people who say that aliens are real and they're smart people. I don't believe it. And I've never even been interested in the topic. He speaks about it very frankly. But also Donald Trump, I mean, one of the things he's known for is he will change his mind. Or other people may put it as being flip-flopper, right? Just changing his tactics midstream. So it wouldn't be a shock if he came out and said this. And this would be the perfect time because so many people hate Donald Trump with a fiery passion that cannot be described, and they do not trust him at all. So right now, if Donald Trump came out and said aliens are real, they've been visiting us for 80 years, we've been covering it up, and we've been covering it up as a national security issue, but I want to reveal it to you now, 50% of the country would not believe him because they don't believe anything he says. You would even have people who believe in aliens and think they might be visiting Earth, and they would say, oh, I don't believe that anymore because Donald Trump said it. You would be able to disclose with proof that aliens have been visiting Earth, and people would not believe it because of who was saying it. The media would be really, really stuck on how to cover it as well. Isn't that interesting? I think it is, right? I think it is. My friends are like, no, I wouldn't believe anything he said. I go, even if he had photos and documents, they go, even if he had photos and documents. If he came out and said aliens are real, I wouldn't believe it. I've heard that just over the course of the weekend when I was talking to people. It's the perfect time. Also, it would play to Trump's strength, ego, whatever you want to call it, because whoever makes this statement, it's the biggest moment in human history. Well, what would be better for Trump than to say something that could never, ever be topped? And it would benefit the people who are trying to not have the existence of aliens revealed. They don't want anyone to know about this, but the disclosure movement grows and grows each year. Which, I don't have it in my notes, but I think the Tic Tac video was filmed like in 2007. It was made publicly available years later. I think it came out like 2017 or something like that. 2015. From the Tic Tac video of that UFO flying around the Nimitz carrier group to now, it has not been a long period of time. And even people who never really considered the idea of aliens, when they saw that video or when they heard that Congress was discussing that video, they go, oh, maybe there is something to this. Very short period of time, disclosure comes closer and closer and closer. It's ramping up. It'd be the perfect time. He'd be the perfect person to say it. Because the people who want a president, or really that's who you want to hear it from, maybe not him, but people who are into the disclosure movement, they want the government to acknowledge that aliens are real and that they've been visiting Earth and they've been covering it up. But the people who want to keep those secrets hidden, they go, dude, this is the perfect time because no one will believe him. He'll instantly turn it into a political moment. I know a very famous UFOologist. I don't want to say his name because I don't know. Well, I don't want to say his name for a couple of reasons. One, he's a really nice guy, but he's a very famous UFOologist, and he hates Donald Trump so much. And I mean, it would, I would be like, oh, I would feel bad for that guy. Super nice guy, right? But he hates him so much. I know how much he hates him. And he would not stop believing in aliens if Trump said they were real, but I think that would really, really make him mad if Trump jumped into this issue. It instantly make it political. The same way, it was unfortunate, but you could tell people's political values on how they acted during COVID. A disease shouldn't have been a political issue, but it quickly did become one. So, I mean, like, that would be the same thing here. Whether or not you wore a mask, right? You could go, oh, that guy, he guess his politics. Whether or not he wore a mask. Think about how weird that moment was. It'd be the perfect time to say it. It would make a lot of people mad who are in UFOlogy, who don't want it to be politicized. Donald Trump would get the win, one of the biggest wins in human history. And even with photos, even with evidence, people still wouldn't believe it. In fact, it would become a political thing. Oh, you believe in aliens? What are you, a Trumper? Oh, that's why Musk was always building those spaceships? So interesting, right? Dan Farah thinks that this may be coming, that his team's putting together a document, a statement for him to read, or for him to, he won't read it, right? He just kind of goes off the cuff. He'll say whatever when the time comes, but everyone gets what they want. The disclosure people get the truth, and people who want to keep the story clamped down, they get what they want too, because no one will believe them. Or so many people won't believe them that there might as well still be disclosure going on. Perfect time to do it. And I'm curious what you guys think about this. How would you feel? Because I know there's a very diverse political audience that listens to this show. How would you feel if Donald Trump announced the existence of aliens? Whether you like him or not, how would that make you feel? Fascinating stuff, and we'll see. I mean, here's the thing. The one thing you can't predict is what Donald Trump will do or won't do. And it would make sense. It would play to his persona, his ego. This biggest moment in human history, if he was the one to announce this. Fascinating stuff. Brian, let's go ahead and touch the keys of the world-famous Carpenter copter. We're leaving behind an ordinary house in an ordinary neighborhood. I forgot. I think that's where I set up this story. I was going to do this whole bit about a family watching Trump give that news, and I was going to do my bad Trump impression, but I was like, that's dumb. Right? It was dumb. I took a break. I turned on a heater, and here we are. Brian, we're leaving behind this ordinary house in an ordinary neighborhood. Why don't you fly us all the way out to France? We're headed all the way out to France. It's a crisp summer French day. And we're about to meet a man. His name is Christian Negre. He is the Deputy Director of Human Resources for the French Ministry of Culture. Ooh la la, indeed, you say. I mean, pretty fancy. You can't get fancier than that, right? Christian, like Human Resources, I mean, that's kind of a dime a dozen. But Culture, Ministry of Culture of France, wow, that's pretty amazing. And we see this guy's name's Christian. He's in his early 60s. And while he's sitting in his office, a young woman walks in, and he goes, "Oh, mademoiselle, oh, yes, sit in this chair." And she does. And he goes, "What's your name, young lady?" And she goes, "Nancy." He goes, "Oh, Nancy, beautiful name, beautiful name. So you want to apply for a job here at the Ministry of Culture?" And she's, yeah, that'd be great. Yes, I saw your profile on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is what they call it, you kids have. And Jason, is this the main character? You're going to do this stupid accent the whole time? I don't know if I'll do that. It is the main character, so yeah, let me take off the accent, because it would get annoying. Christian's sitting there, and he goes, sit, mademoiselle. Would you like something to drink? And she goes, yes. He goes, "Oh, yes, tea or coffee? What will you have?" And she goes, "Tea's fine." He goes, "I'll be right back." So he brings some tea back for her and hands it to her, and she's drinking it. And he goes, "Oh, yes. Tea, beautiful drink. Yeah, I saw your profile on LinkedIn. It looks like you have a great resume. I think you'd be a perfect fit here at the Ministry of Culture." She's like, "Yeah, this is amazing. I never thought I'd have an opportunity to apply for a job like this." He's like, "It's not that big of a deal. We just handle all of the artwork and all of the museums and all the stuff that France has to offer. Have you ever been to the top of the Eiffel Tower?" I do. I do that every lunch break. I climb up it like King Kong, Christian says. And she's like, oh, that's fascinating. Christian is interviewing this young woman, and he goes, "You know what? We could sit in this stuffy office and we could talk about work and whether or not a human can climb to the top of the Eiffel Tower every day. We could do it here, or you know what? what better way to do an interview for the Ministry of Culture of France than to walk around France itself? Nancy goes, well, that's a great idea. So they start walking around, and they end up making their way near the Louvre, the big French museum, paintings and statues and stuff. Probably some T-Rex bones as well. It's an ordinary Tuesday, the day Christian normally does his interviews, on Tuesdays. Him and Nancy are walking around the Louvre. Well, not actually in the Louvre. It's closed on Tuesdays. What was I thinking? Doing my accent again? Ooh la la. She's like, are you okay? Oh, and yes, a stroke. Makes me go in and out of accents. Yes, the Louvre is usually open the other days of the week, but on Tuesdays they're closed. We got to give the T-Rex bones a break. Got to clean them, dust them up. Very dusty when you're 65 million years old. Let's just walk around these beautiful gardens. And Nancy's like, okay. And the reason why she's hesitant is not because she doesn't trust this guy. Not that she's afraid to walk around these gardens. It's the fact that since they've left the office, she's had the urge to urinate. So tell me about your past jobs. Tell me about all the jobs. I mean, sure, I have a resume, but I want to hear it from you. And she goes, well, I used to work at this bank, and then I worked at this publisher house. And she, what? Why is she making that noise? Oh, get ready, guys. They're walking around the garden, and she's talking about her job history. Tell me your greatest strengths. What are your best strengths as far as culture goes? And she's like, well, I was born in France. I know a lot about French paintings and movies. And he's all, go on. Tell me about these paintings. And she's like, well, the famous ones like Renault. Isn't that a French painter? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know. We could go into the Louvre, but it's closed. Nancy exclaims. You're like, she having an orgasm? No. I don't know why I'm making those noises either. The problem is, let's jump to the case here. Nancy, on her job interview with Christian, has to pee so bad. And she goes, hey, listen, I hate to interrupt this job interview, but I have to go to the bathroom really, really bad. Is there a bathroom nearby? And he goes, I wish there was, young mademoiselle. You see, the Louvre has tons of bathrooms. In fact, some of the art exhibits are just toilets sitting in the middle of the gallery. However, they're closed on Tuesdays, and we're all the way out in this garden, kind of in the middle of nowhere. But you say you have to pee? And she goes, yeah, really bad. I've never had to pee so bad in my life. Is there any bathroom nearby? And he goes, no, young lady, no. So Nancy is in the garden with Christian, a man she just met. A man who was offering her a job, a dream job, working in the Ministry of Culture. And she's just looking at him, and then she looks down in shame as she begins to urinate in her clothes. Her underwear becomes soaking wet. More pee than has ever come out of her body is now spraying. Like when you put your finger in front of a garden hose and it goes in all directions. Her underwear becomes soaked. She urinates so much that a growing wet spot begins to appear on her dress. You can actually see it. In fact, you can hear the urine running down both legs and spilling across the garden ground. And Christian is just standing there. And although Nancy can't see it, because she's not looking at him, right? She's looking at the ground. She's so apologetic. If she looked up for just a moment, she would see Christian smiling. A wry, perverted smile. Is this a new segment called Jason's Fanfiction? Jason's Urinary Fictional Universe? It's all connected. I'm going to have multiple of these stories spread out over the coming years. And it's my new ARG about women urinating in themselves. No! No, that's not what it is. I'm not even going to make a joke about that, even though I just did. This is a real event. You're like, okay, Jason, some woman peed herself during a job interview. I don't think that's Dead Rabbit Radio worthy. Yes, it is. It is, right? You're like, I don't know. Are there any other podcasts I can listen to? Yeah, there are. But I found this story online. It's not just one woman. Because again, that would be funny. But this goes way deeper than that. If you think the story is just the urine, we're going down into the bladder, the metaphorical bladder of this story, because it goes deep. Christian Negre, allegedly, this is all alleged, it's still going through the court system. He is the head of HR for the Ministry of Culture in France. He had a nickname around the workplace. For years, people called him the photographer. But because there was a concern that he was taking photographs of women's legs, he would do little creep shots. Not like slipping the camera up under the dress or anything like that, but just taking shots of their legs. Female coworkers, sometimes female bosses, if he could get away with it. And get away with it he did. I mean, people were concerned about his behavior, but no one really thought anything of it. They called him the photographer. That was his nickname. At one point, he was working on their Female Equality Council, because he'd been working with them for years as the HR guy, and then they're like, hey, we're putting together this thing where we want to lift up women. And he's like, did you say lift up women's dresses? They're like, no, just lift up women emotionally and professionally. He's like, anyways, I want to be a part of that. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. But he was still taking photographs of women's legs. He goes, it's part of my work. I want to see where it's best to lift them from. Turns out, the calves, so you can get a good grip. Lift them up. They're like, we're not physically lifting them, Christian. Finally, though, after years of reports of this guy, when we're talking about like 2015 to 2019, some people say it goes a little bit farther back than that even. Finally, someone caught him taking a photograph of one of his supervisor's legs. And that dude reported it, and that really broke the straw. That was not broke the straw. That really broke the camel's back. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. So they initiated a police investigation of this guy. Is he taking creep shots at work? And in course of this investigation, the police got a hold of his laptop. I believe it was his computer. I believe it was his home computer. And they're just trying to see if there's a bunch of photos of women's legs or women, from the waist down. But again, no panty shots or anything like that. I'm not, you're like, Jason, it's still creepy. A guy taking photos of women's legs. You're like, but it's not super creepy, therefore it's okay. No, it's not okay. I'm not saying that. But, I mean, what I'm saying is it could be worse, right? I mean, again, that's a bad defense in any sort of legal case. You're like, Honor, my client did murder an entire family, but he could have murdered two. It could have been worse. The police are investigating this, and they find an Excel spreadsheet, and it's labeled letter P, so just P experiments. The letter P experiments. And the detectives were like, oh, okay. Who would have liked to open this Excel document on this alleged pervert's computer? What could it be? It could just be a bunch of math and numbers and stuff. Maybe he's trying to figure out some calculations. That's why he's using Excel. However, this guy most likely is a pervert. So whoever clicks on this Excel spreadsheet gets a raise and an ice cream sandwich when they get back to the office. The police pull up this P experiments file. And what's interesting, I've read multiple articles about this. The number always changes, but it's always within 200 to 300 listings on this Excel spreadsheet. This Excel spreadsheet will have a woman's name, their age, some other information like date of interview, and then it had descriptions of how they urinated and where. Did they make it to the toilet or not? Tips are like, what? Who are these people? Who's Nancy? who had a date, an interview on this date, and then why does it say next to her name, didn't make it to the toilet, soaked her dress? I better get a really big ice cream sandwich when we get back to the office, because this is creepy. Between 200 and 300 different names and listings. Some of these descriptions for how they urinated was, quote, very loud whistling, unquote. I don't know if the woman was whistling. I think her urine was shooting out with such strength. Air was escaping, which you go, Jason, whoa, wait a second. No one pees that bad. In fact, no one has to go to the bathroom so bad that they go on an interview and they're walking around and then all of a sudden they're in the middle of nowhere and they have to pee, so they piss themselves. Like these women, when you look at these accounts, the police did end up tracking down a lot of these women. And they go, hey, did you have an interview with them? Imagine this knock at your door from the police. Did you have an interview for the Ministry of Culture a couple of years back? And they'd be like, yeah. And they go, did you pee? Did you pee on yourself? Did you pee your pants? And she goes, I did actually, and I've never told anyone about that. How do you know? Plus, is that illegal? Why are the cops investigating me? The cops go, we're not investigating you, ma'am. The police reached out to a lot of these women, and the media have reached out to them as well. The ones that have come forward. And they've said, listen, you have to pee harder than you've ever peed before. It's not like, oh no, I might wet my pants or I might let a little dribble out. No. These women were describing the need to urinate as so painful, like their back was hurting. Their body was reacting with such an intense urge to urinate, you couldn't hold it in. According to the spreadsheet, a couple women were able to make it to a local toilet, break into the Louvre. That wasn't an art theft that happened the other day. That was a group of women trying to use the toilet. The spreadsheet would say some women would somehow, against all odds, make it to a toilet. A lot of women would tell Christian, hey, sorry to say this, but I really have to go to the bathroom. And he would go, okay, why don't we go to like off this side street? They didn't always walk through the gardens. They didn't always walk around the Louvre. But somehow these interviews always seemed to take place far away from a functioning toilet. Sometimes the woman would pee in public and he would hold up his jacket to protect her from view. But one woman said, sure, that was a nice gesture, but he stared at me the entire time I was squatting and peeing. So no one else could see, but he was watching. And then women said I couldn't control it and it was so painful that I just peed my dress. The one woman said I was soaked. Her dress was just dripping with urine. You go, well, Jason, did he schedule all these interviews? He goes, first off, Ministry of Culture wants you to drink a gallon of water before you show up. How did these women have to urinate so bad? It's funny, I've read a ton of articles about this. It's almost like, I can understand journalists don't want to do a how-to manual. It took me a long time to figure out exactly what he was doing to them. Early articles said he would put a diuretic in their drink. They would ask for coffee or tea. He would give it to them. And then a while later, they'd have to go to the bathroom. And I'm thinking, well, I know there's water pills. There's diuretics you can take. But I think about how hard-pressed I would be if I was on an interview and I really had to pee. Would I ever piss my pants during the job? It sounds actually pretty funny. I would do whatever I could not to. But finally, I found which diuretic he was using. You're like, Jason, you're not planning on doing this. That's why you're taking time off the podcast each week so you can start your own pee experiments. No. He was using a diuretic called, let me find it for you. This whole time you've been like, oh, I hope he names it. I've been researching this story for years. Haven't been able to find out what it was. What was the diuretic? It was called Brian Blackwood. I'm sure is very thrilled he's on this episode. He goes, yes, the Trump episode and the piss episode. Fantastic. Say the name of a book a few more times, Jason. I really want the urine crowd. No, where did I put this? My computer got hacked and they removed it from my notes. I know it's on here somewhere. Oh, it's called Diren 40. It's a diuretic called Diurin 40. The generic name is furosemide. And you go, okay, they give him a diuretic, you kind of have to pee. No, this particular drug, first off, you can't even buy it legally in France. You have to order it from online. They ship it from New Zealand. It is a diuretic, and it's specifically designed for when you're going through heart failure and your body begins to fill up with fluid. When you have that thing called edema, so your ankles are starting to swell up because your body just is not functioning. You have this huge fluid retention. You're going to die type of fluid retention. So that's what this medicine's designed for. You take it to get all of the fluid out of your ankles and out of your swelling body because your heart's not working. Get all of that fluid out of your body as quickly as possible. It's probably the strongest diuretic ever invented. It's a life-saving mechanism. You'd get it in the hospital. I'd be surprised. If you could use this at home, you probably shouldn't be at home. Your body's shutting down. That's how the urine was so powerful. That's how he could guarantee it every single time. It's flushing their body out of any liquid they have. So this is from a woman. She went by the name Sophia. She gave this interview to BFM TV. It's a 24-hour French news channel. Quote, the pain became unbearable. I didn't just lightly urinate on my dress. I was soaked to the bone. I didn't know where to put myself. I kept thinking, please don't let him notice. But I still had this unbearable pressure in my bladder. She was one of the people that, she goes, I gotta pee. I'm gonna have to squat and go to the bathroom. Well, she'd already peed herself and more was coming to the point where her dress was soaked. And she said, he goes, well, sorry that happened. It happens to everybody. Also, usually during my job interviews, but let's not go there right now. He goes, why don't you squat here and I'll hold his jacket up? And she goes, he was looking at me the entire time, which she thought was odd. What was interesting too, so again, people called him the photographer. And other people noted, hey, wait a second, isn't it kind of weird that the director of HR here has all of these interviews with pretty young women? Most of his victims were between the ages of 20 and 35. That he never hires. He goes on these long interviews, these walks, and then he doesn't ever hire any of them. This was another alarm bell that was going off, but people were just kind of like, oh, you're just being paranoid. as your boss is sitting there totally peed her pants. She's like, no, it happens all the time. I just had some coffee with him the other day. But no. I usually just come in with soaked pants. Leave him alone. He's not doing anything wrong. Yeah, he did this for over 6 to 9 years. They don't really know. They have that listing. The police are contacting victims. Originally, 7 women were identified and they came forward, and he has to pay each of them 16,000 pounds. And that was supposed to be the end of it. And the police, the authorities kept investigating it, and they keep uncovering more and more and more. So it's really interesting. That Excel spreadsheet apparently had 200 to 300 names in it, but maybe they were only able to get a hold of 7. It really sounds like something that he's never served a day in jail for this. He's been charged with administering a harmful substance. He's been charged with sexual assault by a person, because obviously this was a fetish thing. He had a psychological assessment done. He's considered an enthusiast of urolagnia, which is the sexual excitement at watching someone else pee. That's very, very specific. Very specific fetish. But yeah, he has never really served any jail time at all. He doesn't work there anymore. It's not like they're like, okay, we'll put you on administrative leave for a couple months, but then come on back. You got a lot of job interviews to do. You're way behind. No, it sounds like they kind of want the story to just go away. Authorities, though, keep looking into it and keep uncovering new victims. But they do have to get a hold of these people because, obviously his defense would be like, well, those names, that's just a fantasy I have. Those names and those dates, you can't ever really get all that information. I don't know if he had their social security number or whatever. Police are still looking for victims. The Ministry of Culture, they are currently being, the women who were victims of this want to sue. They want the Ministry of Culture to pay for the fact that they had this pervert in their presence for a long time and did nothing about it. And they let him keep having these interviews and all these women are peeing their pants. Ministry of Culture says we didn't know anything about any of that. But that's where the stories have come out, where for years people called him the photographer and he was taking those creepy photos. While they didn't know anything about the peeing thing, they did know, or seemed to have known, that he was doing other inappropriate things. One of the victims said, I knew that he was formerly working for the Equality Board to help lift up women. I felt safe with him more than anyone else. Like, who would hurt me other than a guy who's all about the equality of women? And, she found out that sometimes that, I don't want to, I almost made a statement that may or may not be true, but sometimes the most vile predators join those types of groups. I was watching a YouTube video today about a local politician who wore a hat that said "Make pedophiles afraid again," and he was like in Aberdeen, maybe Aberdeen, Texas. He was like, pedophiles suck, which I 100% agree with that assessment. But then, of course, he's arrested and tried for molesting his own daughter or stepdaughter or something like that. So, sometimes people who are the most villainous will join these groups or make those statements to hide their own evil intent. That is kind of a meme that a lot of the male feminists out there, that's just a new hunting ground for them. I don't think all male feminists are perverts, just so we're clear. But I do think that would, if you were a pervert, that'd be a good gig to get into. What is this? Is this an advice episode or true crime episode? You've revealed a toxin that can make people pee so much that their body hurts, even though the media tried covering it up. You read 10 articles and only one of them mentioned it. So obviously they didn't want it revealed. And now you're saying some perverts listening to this episode. He goes, I'll use that. Oh, male feminist, I can do that. Oh, Brian Blackwood? Well, I'm going to go check out that book. And I'm going to hold it during most of my crimes. Fractured. But, no, I'm not giving advice to perverts or criminals. It is interesting, though, right? That did work as far as she goes, I totally trusted him because I knew he was on that board. And you figure, he must have been vetted. They just didn't get some bum off the street to work for the Women's Equality Board. His own coworkers, his own bosses put him in that position. So I trusted him. And all of the women have said, you're in a job interview and someone offers you a drink. You don't think it's poisoned with anything, let alone a medical grade diuretic. It's super interesting. I think that's why this story's still getting discussed in the media, because they haven't really done anything yet. He was ordered to pay this money, but other than that, he's just kind of walking around. I don't know if he's literally walking around looking for new victims, but a fetish is hard to control. That's not an excuse. What I'm saying is that he hasn't stopped. I guess allegedly. I know France law is pretty strict. I've got to be careful of a French law. It's a little too late now. It's like, that pervert. I got to be a little more careful. But allegedly, all of this stuff has come to light. And allegedly, the Ministry of Culture is like, yeah, they just want it to go away. They didn't know any of this is what they're saying. But he wouldn't have had access to all of these victims had he not been in that position. That's kind of the case of the women. He found most of his victims. He saw them on LinkedIn. You can imagine this creep, this real life creep, not allegedly. He actually did this. Christian sitting at home, pants down, on LinkedIn, proof, true, this is all true. No, I'm just joking. He's sitting there, it's all fake. He's sitting there on LinkedIn looking for beautiful women. And thinking, I bet she would look good as she was peeing her pants. I can imagine the grimace on this perfect young face as she looks at me and goes, is there a toilet nearby? Oh, the rapture. Oh, the beauty. It's like a digital hunting ground. He used his power to do this. He wouldn't have been able to do this otherwise if he wasn't working there. That's kind of the argument. And there is more of a sinister level to it, the fact that he was inviting women to come into his office and apply for the job. It's not like he was just waiting around for the right person to get in. He had a need. And he made that need be fulfilled by hunting women on LinkedIn. Crazy stuff, right? It's honestly, this could not have happened in a time without the internet. I mean, the scope of it. Because otherwise you'd just be sitting there all day long with a boner going, oh man, I hope a woman applies today. And I hope she likes coffee or tea. And maybe a woman comes in, but she's not hot. And you're all, doo! You lose your boner. Allegedly, right? He's like, no, I'm rock strong. Christian's like, you can say whatever you want about me, but I'm always hard. I never lose my boner. No, the internet facilitated this. He wouldn't have been able to pull this off without the internet. He wouldn't have been able to pull it off without the position. Fascinating story. It's also fascinating, like nothing really legally. He hasn't served any time in jail. He may not. Who knows? But the story's still out there. Crazy, crazy stuff. Fetishes are always weird to me, especially when they cross over into criminal activity. You're like, why couldn't you just sat home and fantasized about that? Why did you have to do it? Why did you have to go out there and do it? I'm sure there's a lot of guys who are really into feet and they just think about feet all the time. And then every so often they might give a girl a foot rub or suck their toes or whatever. But where was I going? I don't know where I was going with that. I guess it was the fact that if it's a criminal fetish, I mean, I'm not saying, like, that's okay. It's pretty horrible to fantasize about committing crimes against people. But it's better than the alternative, right? It would be better if he just sat home and it would be better if he just sat at home and thought about women peeing their pants. Because then he's not in jail. So I guess I can't say crime doesn't pay, but he wouldn't owe this money. His reputation wouldn't be ruined. He'd still have this cushy job as human resources director. And 200 to 300 women would not have had the experience of peeing themselves in front of a potential boss. That alone would be embarrassing, but then when you found out the entire situation was manufactured, now it's infuriating. You could have just sat at home and thought about it. But he went and did it instead. And hundreds of women. So the next time you go for a job interview and your possible future boss looks at you, he goes, hey, I'm glad to see you've arrived on time for this interview. And you're like, oh, that's pretty low standards for this job. You're here on time, you're hired. It's better than most of our employees. Next time you're getting ready for a job interview, just remember, don't take the drink. Whatever they offer you, because of this one story, you're super dehydrated the rest of your life. You're like, I don't even drink faucet water. Christian might be hiding in my pipes. Like Eugene Toombs from X-Files. And that's not alleged. He actually can do that. He can bend his bones and fit through the smallest of spaces. That's true. Christian Negre is a monster from an X-Files episode. You're super dehydrated. You go to a job interview, your lips are all chapped. Your hair's falling out. You're like, yeah, I have a really good resume. I think it'd be great here. And your potential boss is like, dude, are you okay? You have a yellowish tint to your skin. Do you need to go to the doctor? No, I'm good. I don't trust my doctor anymore. Your eyes shift from side to side. You're looking for any small cracks in the walls. Christian might slip out. I think the moral of the story, there is no moral, right? I guess the moral of the story is there are people out there who are just wicked. They're just terrible people to do this. And now, because you've heard that story, you take it to heart. You've become dehydrated. You refuse to drink any liquid ever again. You're sitting there, even when you start to sweat out the first last drops of hydration in your body, you're moving your mouth so you don't catch them in your mouth. You're like, Christian might be in my pores. Christian might be in my pores. You're still in that same interview. It's day 4. The boss is like, please leave. You're turning into a desiccated husk right in front of me. You're like, I don't have the liquid hydration to move. Because you stopped drinking water because of this story. Like, you didn't do anything to the water. You put it in coffee or tea. I think you're allowed a Coca-Cola or a cup of Kool-Aid every once in a while. You would think so, but you took this story to heart. You go, I'll never pee again. So instead, you just slowly turn into a withered old husk. Old. Why am I old? I was young when I started listening to this episode. Yeah, you look old because you got no liquid in your body and you just go, ugh. So the moral of the story is don't do that. Don't become a dried up husk in the middle of a job interview. Don't trust people, I guess, is the moral of the story. Who would have ever thought that this could have happened? This is one of those things that when you read it, you're kind of like, yeah, I guess there are people with fetishes, weird perversions in places of power, like obviously. But who would have ever thought, even the women it was happening to, who would have ever dreamed that that was a possibility? You go in for a job interview, and not only is the dude a pervert, but he makes you an unwitting part of his perversion. I mean, I figured that, right? Guy's really into boobs. He hires a bunch of women with big boobs at his workplace. Fine. I support that. Where do you work, sir? Do you need an assistant? I'll be there. But imagine if the fetish is making you urinate yourself. Like, who would have ever thought this? Again, it's possible. And when you talk about fetishes, you go, yeah, I guess that does kind of make sense. But the sequence of events that had to take place to not only put him in a position of power, the internet to allow him access to these victims, and the work culture where he's at, allegedly, protecting him. All of this stuff had to fall into place for this story to happen, and it did fall into place. It lined up perfectly. And he was allowed access to between 200 and 300 victims over the course of 6 to 9 years. A young woman going into an office for a job interview has such an embarrassing moment that she doesn't even tell her closest loved ones what happened during that interview, that she peed herself. An embarrassing moment that she never really could figure out exactly why that happened. She never had to go to the bathroom that bad. And why it had to happen then, in front of a potential boss. Little did that woman realize that she was just one of many names on an Excel spreadsheet hidden on a pervert's computer. To her, it was one of the most embarrassing moments in her life. But to Christian Negre, it was just another Tuesday. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.